Hey everyone, it's Matt Niehaus here, and I'm going to be doing a digital presentation on the off chance that the impending ice and snowmageddon prevent me from being able to make it up to Eau Claire. Uh, this is not a guaranteed, oh, I'm going to show this one, but just in case something goes wrong, here's something that's backed up. I'm going to go through my PowerPoint now, so just a moment. Okay, so uh, miscounting the Midwest. This is my research paper prospectus looking at Wisconsin, Iowa, and the politics of the state level census, as it says on the screen right now, ranging from specifically 1895 through to 1915. I know this might seem like I'm only really hitting two censuses, the 1900 and the 1910, but the reason why I'm picking this time frame is because there were actually three state level censuses and the two national censuses that happened during it. State level censuses were conducted every 5 years, offset by the national one. So it's not that every state got to do one every 5 years. It's got that they got to do their own one separate from the national one every 5 year interperiod. So my core research question, as I've kind of alluded to already, how did Wisconsin and Iowa use those state level censuses around that time period to define their populations, and what does this reveal about state level political and administrative priorities? When I say around these time periods, yes, I am recognizing that I will be needing to look before and after. There are some limitations with the duration that the state level censuses ran, so I am being cautious to keep this time period restrained within a period where the census at the federal level was both being professionalized and both of the states were still conducting their censuses. Quick preface about the census. It's been going on for a very long time in the US, conducted every 10 years. And the state level censuses, which are less known about, ran in different states for different durations. There were some colonial ones that predate some of the federal records that we've got. The state level censuses from 1835 in Iowa vary a great deal from what we're going to be looking at in this from 1905. So there's a lot of shift just within what the state is looking at here. So we got the state level ones that ran longer in Iowa than they did in Wisconsin. And the goals of any census really are to identify who lives where so that the government can understand the needs of the constituency, demographics of the constituency, and send funding wherever it needs to go. It's supposed to be a purely administrative process, at least nominally, but it seldom ends out being that. So it allows people to determine and set and direct various administrative priorities. So why am I looking at state censuses, and why am I looking at Wisconsin and Iowa specifically? Well, first off, I live right at the border of Wisconsin and Iowa, and it makes it easy for me to access those records. That stated, a lot of these records are digital, so my proximity doesn't really necessarily correlate to a guaranteed ease of access that I wouldn't have elsewhere. The real reason why I'm looking at Wisconsin and Iowa is because they're both frontier states during this time period that we're looking at. And there's a difference between what's going on in Wisconsin during the time and what's going on in Iowa during the time. Wisconsin is much more densely populated by a different group of people entirely, whereas Iowa is still today and was then more agriculture focused. So focusing on these two state censuses allows us to see what kinds of experiments that they were running at the same time. So if, for example, as we'll be seeing a little bit later, Iowa wanted to collect more information about farmers, they would be able to target that within their state level census. They wouldn't necessarily have that record available in the federal level. So, as I'm saying, this allows you to see when different focuses are picked up at the state level. Perhaps the federal level borrowed a little bit from there, something I'm yet to really necessarily figure it out, and fingers crossed would like to learn during some more research. But my main focus is on these two state censuses. And another reason why I'm looking at state censuses is because most scholarship is focused on national census matters. It's easier information to access, get, and since it's national, there's no real regional specialization in what is still a somewhat emerging field in the historical community, despite the fact that censuses have been around for a very long time. Touching on that, census historiography in general. Censuses have been used for a long time, as I just said, and they are used to provide a data set for a lot of other studies. So when it's being used as a data set, there's minimal assessment of the census itself. I'm sure that a lot of people out there are going to be using some form of census records in their research, but you're not going to be examining, how that census was conducted. You're just going to be using the information at face value. So a lot of the historiography on censuses, at least in the early stages, was really just, yep, censuses are good, we're using these as the data. A little bit more complex than that, but eventually we start seeing a development more with administrative historians coming onto the scene. We look at the examination of the institutional history of the census, the actual bureaucratic machine that runs it, and we can also get into classification politics, looking at racial, ethnic, gender determinations, who is considered within what group, why they're considered within that group, and how are men and women classified differently within households. What is the head of household actually mean versus husband versus male, female? There's a lot of different things that can be looked for by the government in changing those categories, and they did make a distinct effort to change them between those 10-year periods, and with the states between the 5-year periods. And also there's been some study into the actual experiences of counting. Nowadays, when we think of taking the census, a lot of people think, oh yeah, you just fill something out in the mail, send it back in, boom, you're done. Not so much in the past, especially when literacy was horrendously low. You had people going from town to town, village to village, farm to farm, with a big old book. They would sit down and they would write the information down in front of the people who they were talking with. They would make a determination themselves about whatever information they were collecting about people. So there's an interplay to look at between the actual people who were taking the census back then, which is within the time frame that I'm looking at, and the people who they were actually talking to, working with, in order to figure out who they even were. Margot Anderson is the individual who provides the institutional assessment I'm looking at here. Here's her book, The American Census. That is a big picture narrative of the federal census. It's going from the long ago to present day. It's a foundational, somewhat, text, and it shows how the census is an administrative tool for taxation, planning, direction of resources, effectively determining what communities are going to survive and which ones aren't, especially in the early founding stages of a state. And this provides an opportunity for politics and policy to directly influence the statistics rather than necessarily things going the other way around. And this is useful for the study because it creates that underlying understanding of what's going on at the national level with the national institutions who are establishing the national tenure censuses. States like Wisconsin and Iowa and many other states copied portions of their census changes from that national level. So if you're going to be looking at a state level census, you need to have an understanding of the national census process just to see where they're borrowing things from, what they're rebelling against, or what kinds of other modifications they might be making and why. Okay, next up we got Dan Buch's book, Democracy's Data. This is a deep dive into the 1940s census. It's not related to my time period necessarily, but in virtue of being a case study on a specific census, it gives me a lot of how-tos in what I need to be looking at, what other avenues I could be pursuing. And Dan also talks about a lot of the things related to census takers dealing with their actual people who were answering the census to them, seeing as the census was conducted physically in person. Dan's the one who talks the most directly about that actual physical in-person interaction. So he's a case study, and he's a way to look at that actual person-to-person interaction. Finally, for this, I've got Paul Shor's Counting Americans, and this is where I get a lot of stuff for looking at the conflict in classification, is what I'm calling it as a working title right now. This is focused largely on shifts in federal categories with racial and nativist distinctions between them. It's looking at the federal level, not state, and it looks at how the federal government worked with the so-called experts and the people in general to collaborate and establish who is and isn't American. This is really, really, really central to what I'm looking at because, yes, we have an idea of how the nation categorized people as who is and isn't an American, but how did Wisconsin classify Wisconsinites? How did Iowa classify Iowans? And how is that different from how we understand that reclassification of Americans? So by examining Shor, we can really get at a lot of the same core stuff that I'm looking at, just from a national versus a state level. So my primary sources for this are pretty obviously going to be a lot of census records. These are not exclusively census records, though. I am something of a late switch to this topic, so I recognize there are some other rabbit holes that I could lightly delve down and find something. I have mining records that are available to me in the local area. They have not yet borne any fruit, but that doesn't necessarily say I'm not going to swing by those records some other time over the winter or spring and take another dive at something. But for the time being, these are really kind of my core records, and I'll be looking specifically in at the Iowa, Wisconsin, and federal census for this. And the first thing I'm looking at is the federal census. The federal census is used by most other historical analyses that have been done on census records in America, and it's fundamental to the 10-year base requirements that are used by the different states. So it's how we can tell where different states are diverging in different ways. The federal census, by virtue of having been used for so many studies, has a lot of offshoot, researchable sub-censuses that could be done, such as the military census of 1905 that I mentioned a little bit earlier. My second source is the Iowa State Census. This contains a lot of different information stored under a slew of different categories. They track military service, whereas Wisconsin kind of, sort of did. They have a specific focus on farming that does not appear in the Wisconsin or the federal records. Tracking of literacy is done differently in 1905. The census that Iowa ran in 1915, the census that Iowa ran in 1855, very, very different censuses to be looking at, but this particular one stands out because if you look at the Wisconsin State Census from the same time, there is a sizable difference in the sorts of data that are being tracked, how they're being entered, how they're being tabulated, and just in general, how close it is to its federal counterpart. So we can see that kind of, how much of this is copying from the federal government versus, how much of this is actually, addressing a Wisconsin need that is more focused on Wisconsin and less something that matters in Iowa, such as the farm information. Why is this significant? Why is this actually important? Census data is used by a ton of historical studies, casually thrown out there and trusted. But we've seen in a lot of recent studies some major questions about how the census is actually conducted, why classifications happen the way that they do, and who's left out of, who's glossed over in the actual tabulation process. This has all been done at the federal level, so we don't really have an examination in all that great detail of state level census policies and changes in those 5-year censuses. So what I'm going to be looking at here is that really under-examined relationship between Wisconsin and Iowa. A lot of times we see studies of Wisconsin and Illinois, Wisconsin and Minnesota, because they're natural border states. People don't think a lot about that Wisconsin-Iowa border, but it very much exists. There are peoples who are similar in Wisconsin and Iowa, and there are peoples who are extraordinarily dissimilar. And understanding these similarities and dissimilarities, and then being able to compare them against each other as well as towards the federal government, really gives us the ability to get a unique perspective and perhaps enhance those other studies of the census, as well as other studies that make use of the census. So potentially incredibly significant, incredibly fantastic, but keeping in mind that not necessarily planning on being groundbreaking, just looking at how Wisconsin and Iowa are handling their state level censuses. So I will now address some of my own criticisms with my study. First off, I don't think I've got a good enough grasp of a lot of the other primary source material. I need to read more hearings on this. I need to read some more records on the actual how they were planning on shifting from one 5-year census to the other, to see if there's evidence that any senators actually said, oh well, yeah, let's just copy this from the feds and we'll change this one line. I have to look in for those sorts of things to actually see if there was express stated intent behind anything. So I'm very aware that there is a void in my own research that I need to and will be filling. Furthermore, I recognize that the books that I mentioned are all focused on national censuses. I am not as well versed in Wisconsin and Iowa history as I would like to be. As a result, I am incorporating some just greater general histories of Wisconsin and Iowa into my study. I've already identified a couple of those, but I'm still in the process of vetting them to make sure which ones are good and not, so that I can plink through those over the winter. I guess my one other concern is that I'm focusing a little too heavily on the Wisconsin Iowa border area by virtue of having access to the Southwest Wisconsin room, literally a 5-minute walk that way. I recognize that there's a danger there, and I think that recognizing that danger exists is probably going to be enough to prevent me from going too far down that path. I do have plans to go into Iowa deeper and into up to Madison plenty of times to access the archives there directly, both to see census records in their original format rather than what is scanned out there on Ancestry.com, but also to be able also to be able to like access the actual records of the administrators from that time period that may be available in some of those archives at the state level. I'm not planning on finding a treasure trove necessarily in there, but again, anything that could help me identify either the why there were changes made or even just the how those changes were conveyed from one administrative apparatus to another. So I do think that there is, that there are some things I need to improve with the study, and plenty more research that I need to conduct. And I'm not by any means saying that I'm 100% ready to go with this presentation. So self-criticism over. I hope you all had a good time with this. Please let me know what you've got to pile on in addition to my self-criticism. Looking forward to hearing that. So I hope you have a good one. I'll see you next semester if this snowstorm actually does what it sounds like it's going to do. Okay. Bye.